Join in reading together from the Beatitudes this morning from the Gospel of St. Matthew. Let's read together. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Please be seated. Let's sing together.
Like never before, oh my soul, worship your holy name.
Well, for the last 3 Sundays, we have been talking about it, asking the question, what does it mean to be blessed? Not just giddy happy or full of possessions, living the dream, as some folks put it, but rather as the scriptures really describe it, that word that we've been saying each week, makarios, finding ourselves doing exactly what God designed us to do, being where we're supposed to be, being a blessing to those all around us. We've said so far that to be blessed, at least according to Jesus, is to be poor or poor in spirit. It is to know how to mourn. That is to feel a sadness when you realize that things are not as God would like them to be in this world. And it is to be meek, which means to be strong enough not to have to prove it. Like a wild horse that has not lost its strength but has learned to accept a bit in its mouth. This morning, thus, we come to the fourth of those Beatitudes. We're crawling through them one by one. And it's a rather odd word to us, too, I think. Looking out over the crowd that had gathered to hear him speak on that hillside in the Galilee long ago, Jesus told them that the blessed ones in life will be those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. That really raises the bar a bit, doesn't it? Is there anyone here this morning who is truly and completely, unequivocally satisfied in their life? I don't just mean content or even at peace after having surrendered to reality when life came against you and life won. No, I mean satisfied. Kortazo is the Greek word. It comes from the words kortos, which means plant, and kortasma, which means food. But it's not just about feeling full after dinner. It's more like being so full you have to loosen your pants a little when you get up from the table. It's the same word that is used to refer to fattening up cattle or animals before they go to market. If my grandmother had known Greek, she would have used it when she told us to have another piece of her incredibly rich pie after we already had 2 pieces of it. We're talking about gorging here, my friends, about being satiated, sufficiently replete, as my British kids say, and more so. But not just in food, but in the totality of life itself. Surely a lot of folks today are not satisfied with their lives, are they? Studies have shown, for instance, that more than half of all workers are unhappy in their jobs. 32% are seriously thinking about quitting. 21% of them have a negative view of their employer. And that's just the church staff. No, I'm kidding. But for a lot of folks, going to work every day is like going to the salt mines. That's a horrible task that in ancient Roman times was given to prisoners because the life expectancy of salt miners wasn't very long. On the other hand, oddly enough, Roman soldiers in those days were ironically sometimes paid in salt. So from the Latin word for salt, salarium, came our English word salary. Though in our area, of course, at least in the early days of our community, people made their money not off of salt, but off of sugar. But sugar or salt, blue collar or white collar, hard labor or hardly work at all, a lot of folks don't get much satisfaction out of their jobs today, which in turn has led them to search for it in other areas of life. So some have come to devote themselves entirely to their hobbies or recreation or to sports. We'll see an example of this week in Houston when we host the largest sports event in the country, the Super Bowl of the National Football League. It is clear that a lot of folks invest a lot of themselves, not just into how they may personally participate in athletics, but really how the team they have chosen to support on rather arbitrary criteria, where do you live, about how that team does. Someone once defined the Super Bowl as 22 men on the field, all desperately in need of rest, being watched by 220 million people at home, all desperately in need of exercise. It's probably true. In Buffalo, for instance, the Bills finished the year 7-9. They lost more games than they won, but they're still revered, and so is the number 12. Because Jim Kelly wore that number for 11 years, winning more than 100 games. And starting in 1990, he did something that no other quarterback in history has ever done, not even Tom Brady. He led his team to 4 straight Super Bowls. Now, Brady's been to 7 games. He's won 4, but not in a row. What Kelly did was unheard of, but then so was the kind of painful outcome, which was that the Buffalo Bills lost every single one of those games. It didn't matter. The fans still loved them. And they still love Jim Kelly, who's now facing his hardest battle against cancer. Still, we may try to be stoic whenever we lose and console ourselves with brave thoughts about how winning isn't everything. It actually kind of is, isn't it? A psychology professor by the name of Ian Robertson studied all of this. What he found was that the reason why it's so much fun to win is largely chemical. It increases testosterone, which in turn increases dopamine, and dopamine hits the reward network on the brain, which can make us feel better. But here's the odd thing. It even makes us live longer. It turns out that baseball players, for instance, who make it into the Hall of Fame live a few years longer than players who are turned away. Good news for Jeff Bagwell this week. But likewise, it's the same in other areas of life. Nobel Prize winners outlive the also brilliant Nobel nominees by roughly 2 years. And even in Hollywood, those who win an Academy Award live on average 4 years longer than those who are simply nominated for one. There was a classic study done of Olympic athletes that looked to see from their pictures how happy athletes were as they won. And at least according to the facial expressions, there was a common pattern. Gold medalists were very happy. Bronze medalists were very happy. The silver medalists often had this kind of blank expression on their face, even Michael Phelps, staring out at the distance somewhere. Not because silver isn't good, but because they couldn't stop fixating on the gold. Those who won bronze were happy because they just made it on the medals. And they're on the stand. They beat everybody else for that. But the silver medalists couldn't get past comparing themselves to the gold winner and thinking, I just missed it. In our family, we call that the salutatorian syndrome. My daughter, my wife, and her mother were all salutatorians. Just missed it. So others, of course, have tried to find self-satisfaction somewhere else. The Pharisees, religious teachers of Jesus' day, did that. For instance, they thought they could attain righteousness through diligently studying the law, coming to understand its intricacies and fine points, being able to parse it down to the nth degree. I can tell you precisely whether you were keeping the law or breaking it. But in the end, all their studying not only led to self-righteousness. Like those medal winners in the Olympics, they judged themselves against others. And they clearly concluded, as one Pharisee said, "I thank thee, God, that I am not like other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector standing here beside me." All of which is fine. Jesus told his listeners that day that if you really want to be satisfied in life, satiated, filled even to the point of being stuffed, the key is to hunger and thirst for the right things. It's no coincidence that the word for hunger, paneo, is related to the word for the poor, penes. Because the poor who don't have enough to eat know what it is to be hungry. Not just hangry, because we need a Snickers bar, but genuinely starving. And the word for thirsty, dipsao, means to be parched. It's the word Jesus spoke from the cross in John 28 when he said, "I thirst," after being beaten and mocked, and then nailed up on a plank of wood until his signs of life drained out of him. But Jesus also used that word when he told a Samaritan woman that whoever drinks the water he will give them will never thirst in the future, John 4. It's what he used when he told the story of the one who was hungry and in prison and thirsty, and you gave them something to drink, Matthew 25. Most of all, it's the word Jesus used when he stood up on the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles in the temple, and he proclaimed, "I am the bread of life. He who comes to me will never grow hungry. He who believes in me will never thirst." But you see, what Jesus told us was that we should hunger and thirst for nothing less than righteousness. Dikaios, if you're keeping score on the Greek words this morning. That term, which occurs 88 times in the Bible, implies what is right. That term suggests justice. That term takes us to what is in agreement with God's standards and not our own, as what it means to live in a proper relationship with God. When we hunger and thirst for those things, that's when we find satisfaction in our lives. That will mean, practically speaking, that we engage in both fair and equitable dealings with other people. Our new coffee bar downstairs, Jacob's Well, has been a good while in the coming, but we're trying to do it right. And part of that is to ensure that we deal in fairly traded coffee beans. That is, those which come from coffee farms around the world, where the workers are treated equitably, where they don't get sick because of the use of pesticides which have been banned in this country, but not always evident other places, where they're paid a living wage, not just given $1 a day for what's often backbreaking labor, where some of the profits go back into the community to build schools and clinics to make life better for everyone. Well, the bottom line is not how to produce a product at the cheapest possible cost, no matter what it means to the workers, but how to produce one in the fairest possible way. Will we pay a little more for coffee and products that come from such cooperatives and companies? Yes, of course we will. But not to do so is to rob our sisters and brothers in other places who don't have any other choice. We do have a choice, so we choose to use it in a just way. The hunger and thirst after righteousness means that we will live our own lives with the kind of integrity and virtue and generosity that reflects the justice of the one whom God appointed to judge the world one day. Ephesians 5:8 and 9 tells us to live as children of light, for the fruit of life consists in all goodness, all righteousness, dikaios, and truth. And St. Paul likewise told those in Corinth, he who supplied seed to the sower and bread for food will also supply and increase your store of seed and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. I think of Hudson Taylor in this respect. Hudson Taylor was the son of a Methodist couple in England who were fascinated by the Far East. When Hudson was born, they prayed, God grant that he may work for you in China. Sure enough, in 1853, Taylor, a gaunt, wild-eyed missionary, just 21 years old, set sail for a country where only a few dozen missionaries lived. When he arrived in Shanghai, almost immediately he made a radical decision that horrified the other missionaries who were there. He decided to dress in Chinese clothes, to grow a pigtail, as most Chinese men at the time had. What's more, he left the relative safety of the coast and he set off for the interior of China, sailing down the Huangpu River, distributing Chinese Bibles and tracts all on the way. He fell ill after several years, so he returned home to England to recover, but he also returned home to recruit more people to go back with him for a new group that he called the China Inland Mission. It's called OMF now, Overseas Missionary Fellowship. 24 other people accepted that call, though they had no guaranteed salaries, and nor could they appeal for funds. Hudson told them they simply had to trust God, to supply their needs, and he did. By 1881, he asked God for another 70 missionaries to come, and he got 76 of them. 5 years after that, he prayed for 100 more, and 120 came. So what was Hudson Taylor's power? He simply believed that the real secret of an unsatisfied life lies too often in an unsurrendered will. Hudson Taylor had a hunger and thirst for God and for his righteousness. Because he did, literally millions have been impacted over the years. So what about you and me this morning? If you are still unsatisfied in life, could it be because you have not yet surrendered your will over to the Lord? Maybe you've been looking for satisfaction in all the wrong places. Here's the good news. You don't have to go to China this morning. You just have to go to Christ. Because whoever comes to him will never hunger or thirst again. Likewise, you can go over to the gym at 11, to the ministry fair. You can find a place where you can serve, a ministry you can tie into, a group of people who can become your closest friends here. I love you all sitting here. I'd love to see you doing things outside of this room as well, being involved in actual ministry. That's what the ministry fair is for today. Speaking of his wife, after C.S. Lewis, a confirmed old bachelor, finally married, he wrote that a noble hunger, long unsatisfied, met at last its proper food. May I tell you, your proper food is nothing less than the righteousness of God. He who hungers and thirsts for that will find their fill in him, and they will be satisfied. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.